Hi everyone, welcome to Tuesday, and like we do every Tuesday, we take a look at the performance of the main board for the New Zealand Stock Exchange. Before I do jump across and take a look, I just want to remind you your contribution to your KiwiSaver. Reason being is 30th of June is the KiwiSaver end of financial year, and if you've made that contribution, if you're doing it out of your salary, you'll be fine in most instances. However, if you're self-employed or perhaps are taking a break from KiwiSaver, maybe you aren't in employment anymore, if you make that contribution of 1,043, then you will receive the government's contribution of 260. May not sound like a lot, but over a longer period of time, you'll be surprised how this can quietly add up for you. Now, if you need help with this, if you're unsure, by all means, reach out. I'm happy to help. Or if you want to review your KiwiSaver, the team at Koru Wealth are more than happy to do that for you as well. They are able to give you financial advice. I'll include a link for that in the show notes. Before I jump across and share my screen, just remember that this is for educational purposes only regarding the New Zealand stock market. It's not intended to be personalised financial advice for anyone. Let's take a look. In here, you can see that last week for the stock exchange, it did close down. We're not talking a lot of activity there, and you can see that by the volume chart down the bottom here, that red candle. I've got the 13-week moving average over the volume, and you can see that even though the market sold off last week, it is below that 13-week moving average. So that can be a fairly good sign when you're looking at a share market or a share. The other thing to take note as well is that with last week's performance, we've got that really long tail. Now, that still means there were buyers out there and they were trying to drive that market up. However, obviously the sellers did win on the day. Now, it's really interesting. You can see where that dashed line is that's running across the screen. Naturally, that's where the market closed for last week. However, it appears that could be forming a little bit of a basing pattern. And the reason I say that is because if you just follow along for the last few weeks, there is a few exceptions where it's closed below that. But you can see it's sort of been hitting that line and hasn't been going any further. So that can be a line of resistance. Now, if it can break through that, then hopefully we will see our market run. I just sort of scroll along a bit further. You can see that it reached that sort of topping pattern around November 2024 through to February 2025. So it sort of was in that sideways pattern, and that's a little bit where we are at the moment. Let's go and take a look at the 1 year chart and see how that's performing. Last week, Friday, was our only day that we had positive. The rest of the days were actually negative, and that wick there was the close on Friday the week before. So it does look like buyers are out there. However, they're just not in control yet. Let's put our moving averages on and just see what they're telling us. So we'll use the 30 exponential moving average. You can see the market is on a daily basis trading above that 30-day moving average. Let's also put on our 15 period. The market on a daily basis is trading above both of those moving averages. And you can see the golden cross, and that's where the 15 period moving average crossed through the 30 to the upside. And that happened around the 27th of May. Even though we've had a few negative days, it's still crossed above. Has that happened on the yearly chart? Let's take a look. Right, no, it hasn't. So for me, I would not be wanting to enter any more new positions simply because that 15-week moving average you can see here, which is the blue line, is trading below that red line, which is the 30-week moving average. We want them to have crossed to the upside, and we want the share to be trading above it. So it is good that the share is above it. In fact, it closed pretty much spot on that 30-week moving average. But we do need to see it cross through. And if I look back, you can see on this weekly chart, it crossed here, which was roughly the end of June last year. And then we had a fairly good strong run. And it never came off and went to the downside until about April this year, okay? And then we've been trading below it, but now we've just popped up above it. I'm going to take these moving averages off, and this time I'm going to make a comparison to a smart share which has equal weight to all of the top 50 companies on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. So let's put that in, which is FNZ. Here it is there. And you can see that is underperforming what the main board is doing. So what that's actually saying is that there are a handful of shares that are performing well on our New Zealand market, but it's not across every single share or the majority of the shares. And you can see that. And in fact, looking at that blue line, that's trending down. And I can only bring that up on a bar chart on this particular one. So that's something to bear in mind. Let's actually put FNZ in and have a direct look at that. It paints quite a different picture. You can see that we've had a couple of negative weeks in a row with the equal weight. Whereas on the main board for the New Zealand Stock Exchange, the week previous was a positive week. Let's go and put our moving averages on and see what they're telling us as well. This is just to give you an idea as to potentially what is happening in the market. And you can see that the equal weight ETF is trading below that 30-week moving average, whereas the main board is actually trading above it, only just. Let's also put on our 15-week moving average and see what that also says. Like the main board for the New Zealand Stock Exchange, the 15-week moving average has crossed through the 30. However, it still looks like these are pointing down. They're not looking like they're going to swing upwards anytime soon. So for me, I wouldn't want to be buying into the equal weight ETF. In fact, I wouldn't even want to be buying into the main indices for the New Zealand Stock Exchange, simply because we're in that sideways pattern on the main one, and under the equal weight, the market's definitely trading down. And that is really, really cautionary, whether you're looking at an ETF, an index, or an individual share. If you're looking at buying when the market's trending down and it's below those moving averages, that is definitely a sign of caution, okay? Because that is where things can keep going further than perhaps you and I can remain solvent. Let's just have a look at the 1-year chart and see about that. And yeah, look at this. So on the 1-year chart, if I just zoom in, you can see that the 15-day moving average crossed through that 30, and that happened around January this year. And even though you had a period here which was 26th of February and 27th that popped above it, at no stage did those moving averages cross to the upside. If I go along a little bit further, you can see we've had some good strong candles here around the 30th of April. The moving average got really close, but it never went through. And in fact, it's still looking like it's trading down. This particular fund did go ex-dividend. You can see that here on the 28th of May. And I've spoken of that before, that quite often you will see shares fall after they've gone ex-dividend. And that's because there are people that want to keep the dividends. So that doesn't sort of surprise me. But it's still, in my view, you wouldn't want to be going into this purely because these moving averages are looking like they're trading down. And whilst I've been recording this, I'm recording this on Monday, you can see that already that little red candle has just popped up, and that is for opening on the 8th of June. And so upon opening, the market's down 0.76%. Not a lot when you're talking dollars, you're only talking 0.23 cents, so it's not a lot. However, the market's still down, and that's what that is indicating for us. Now, I'll just stop sharing. I hope that's really helping. If you've got any questions at all regarding the share markets, or if there's anything you want to know, you're unsure about, just reach out, because I am happy to help, and I'm happy to do any of these videos for you. Now, come back on Thursday, we're going to take a look at Rocket Lab. Now, Rocket Lab is a New Zealand company, however, it's listed in the American Stock Exchange. Reason I'm going to do that is because it's been popping up in a lot of share chats that I've been seeing lately, and I too would like to take a look at the performance and see how that's going. So until Thursday, take care.